and a salute. I'm your host, Chris Budihas, and I'm fortunate to be joined virtually with Fred Tanner with Brosnan Risk Consultants. Fred, how are you?
Hey, great. Good afternoon, Chris. Thanks for having me today.
Hey, thanks for joining me. Fred, you're in New York, so tell us a little bit about where you're from and what you did in the Army, and then your post-military career that's brought you here to the company.
Sure. Yeah, no, interesting story, but I'll start kind of at the beginning and try to truncate it for you. I'm a native New Yorker, born in Brooklyn. What was a product of the state education system here.
Okay.
Joined the Army in 1997. Had no plans to make that a career upon joining, but things like September 11th and events like that, kind of took precedent in that. I was an infantry officer for the entirety of my career, retiring in 2018. I only really retired in 2018 because I like to joke around and say, hey, I got an offer that I couldn't refuse. In what turned out to be my final assignment in Afghanistan, one of the special projects that I was working on was, how to harden Kabul, right, in the green zone, and particularly to do that in a way that wasn't, as obtrusive or was more producive to commerce. And so we contacted the NYPD. That escalated pretty quickly into the police commissioner coming over. And then in the course of that, special project, the outcome's a job offer, which candidly I thought was in jest at first.
Yeah.
And then exploring that further, I wound up retiring and transitioning from the Army to being an assistant commissioner with the NYPD, which, for a kid that grew up, either playing cops and robbers or, playing Army,
Yeah.
I felt pretty blessed and pretty lucky for able to do that. Did that for roughly 2 years. COVID, right, hit, and
Yeah.
I think particularly in New York City, like a lot of people, I think I had some additional time on my hands, so kind of the guy that's always has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder in terms of could I make it in the private sector? Start looking around on LinkedIn, and that brought me to Brosnan Risk Consulting, where I am today. I've been with this company roughly 4 years now.
Wow.
Working kind of end-to-end security requirements.
Yeah, it's funny. So, I opened my own LLC. It's a consulting company, more on the strategy, business development side of things. So, for you, because we do get this question, so you've been out there for a while. So, what is a consultant? From your advice to kind of educate our service members, as they take a look at post-military, employment opportunities.
Yeah, it's really it's a good question because there is a wide variance, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny, you have some companies that refer to all their associates as consultants, right? Or I should say, not even their associates, anyone that are employees, they refer to as a consultant. And I would offer, in my current role, maybe 10 to 15% of what I do is actually in a consulting type role, which is to say, when I think of a consultant, I think of someone that's making a direct recommendation to a paying client.
Right.
And I do an aspect of that, and so does this company, right? But after that comes the implementation and the maintenance of those recommendations, right? And I would say, if 15% of my time is consulting, 85% is that service delivery aspect. All right,
Yeah.
because one of the things that's unique about us, it's not just, hey, here's a written report on recommendations and now you can go figure it out, right?
Yeah.
We kind of carry the client through to fruition.
That's huge, that point-to-point piece you brought up, because I have seen with different friends, depending on their business segment, where they got it's almost like a phasing model in the military. They got a phase, but who's doing, you might have done phase one or maybe phase two, but who's doing like the next three? And then really we try to get to the end state, which is what the customer wants or the client. And sometimes it never gets there because nobody's walking the dog through the process to get there. No, I appreciate that. Yeah.
And it's one of those things you have to kind of overcome early on. Is you generally, a client will have had a bad experience with a consultant because it's kind of that parachute in and parachute out, without any kind of connectivity, and longevity. And so it's one of those things that comes up pretty frequently with the pessimists as it relates to, it's almost like the word consulting can be a little bit of a distractor, right, in the conversation.
And for Brosnan, what kind of clients are you servicing?
So largely retail, right?
Okay.
Given a lot of news, if you see the news on organized retail theft,
Yeah.
right, and kind of how that has sprung up in light of some of the criminal justice reform that has occurred, that has kind of spiked the retail space for us, right, in terms of types of clients. But not limited, right? Like we have manufacturing. We're in the manufacturing vertical, we're in the pharmaceutical vertical, we're in the financial vertical. But I will tell you, as of late, we're much more in kind of the big box and retail, both luxury and big box retail.
Now it's huge because people, being a business owner myself and then working previously for General Electric, that's lost income, right? So if you can reduce that risk or increase your security to prevent loss of profit, that's gigantic. So, hey, Fred, thank you for your service to the nation, and thank you for your service that you had there in New York City, your home city. No doubt that was, that was developmental for you going through that process, and no doubt you provide a lot of mentorship, coaching, and teaching for the workforce there, and really appreciate you coming on. So thank you.
I appreciate you, Chris, and the opportunity. It's great to see you, and always good to connect. And we'll see you again soon.
Absolutely.
Right.
Hey, folks, if you like what you see, follow us on LinkedIn. Hey, take a look at what Fred and his team's doing out there in the security space. Today's segment is brought to you by Operation Barnabas, a great nonprofit over here in Northeast Florida, helping veterans with a hand up, not a handout. And we'll see you at our next segment.
Operation Barnabas is a veterans ministry, started in 2017 with the purpose of helping our veterans that kind of got left behind.
These people went over and went to war for us, and a lot of their friends didn't come back, and that's a lot of the stuff that we as veterans deal with is there's a lot of people that didn't make it back, and then it's like, why are we here? So and then they isolate. And
they've struggled with addictions, PTSD, suicidal thoughts, those kind of things, helping them get whole again through one-to-one mentorship.
So being able to communicate with them and help them can drastically change their life, can drastically change a family's life. The little that we can do is put our hand out and say, hey, do you want a hand up? Like, we're not giving a hand out. Do you want a hand up? And just be able to be there with them and do life with them, and just be able to help them, because, man, they put their life on the line for you and me.